accusative form. It's autos. That shouldn't surprise you because you've already seen a similar kind of thing with the article ha, he, ta. And so that neuter, nominative, and accusative singular form shouldn't be problematic for you. Everything else will follow the typical 2-1-2 pattern that we have come to recognize in adjectives, and now it shows up in pronouns as well. We refer to this as pronominal, and we need to understand this term pronominal. I don't think that Mount uses this term anywhere. He talks about these, he describes them, but he never labels it with a term. Pronominals are those words that can function either as a pronoun or as an adjective. In other words, they have the threefold form that allows them to cover masculine, feminine, and neuter forms as an adjective would. But they can also occur without the article and without any noun associated with it. And now for adjectives, you expect to see an article and a noun. They can occur without the article and without the noun and function in that regard as a pronoun. And so in certain contexts, they will be pure pronouns. In other situations, they'll be functioning as adjectives. And autos, when it is functioning as the pure pronoun, will be translated as he, she, or it in the singular, and translated as they in the plural. But when it has the adjective form, there are some situations where it will be translated as self. He, she, or itself, themselves. You just tag that little self form onto the end of it, or it might be translated as same. So it would be just functioning like an adjective that means same. And so these are the ways that we're going to look at this pronominal. Now these come under three different categories of function, and they all begin with the letter I. And so you will hear me refer to the three I's of autos. And that's a phrase that will show up on quizzes and exams, the three I's of autos. And I will ask you, which I of autos is this particular form? The three I's of autos are the independent pronoun. This is where autos is functioning as a typical pronoun would function. He, she, it, or they. The second I is the intensive adjective. The intensive adjective is the translation that intensifies the pronoun. Himself, herself, itself, themselves. You add that self tag to intensify. That's the intensive adjective. And then the third I is the identical adjective. The identical adjective will be translated the same. Whatever noun is there, it could be the same word, it could be the same church, the same disciple, the same house, whatever noun it's used with, it will modify the noun and be translated as same. So the three I's of autos, you will be asked over and over again on quizzes and exams, what are the three I's of autos? Now I've told you already that when you have the square of stops on every quiz and every exam from now on, not every quiz, but every exam certainly from now now on, you can expect to see those equations for the square of stop. That's just a given. They're always going to be on the exam. Well, there's always going to be something on the exam, every exam, that asks you to identify which of the three I's of autos you're working with. So this is not something that you can have a general idea of and pass it off and say, well, I'll recognize it when I need to. This is occurring all the time in the New Testament. There are thousands and thousands of forms of autos in the New Testament. And every time you see one of those forms, you're having to do an analysis of which of these three I's it is, because this is going to lead you to the function of the autos. Well, when we look at autos, we recognize that it follows the 2-1-2 pattern, the 2-1-2 pattern that we're accustomed to. So I'm not going to take time to go through that. I'm going to spend the remainder of the time that we have in discussing how I recognize which of the three I's of autos that I'm working with. And to do this, actually it might be easier just to, let's see if I even have it with me. Might be easier just to work with, it would be easier to work with, let's see. No, I guess I didn't bring them with me. I had some overheads that were on cams that I copied off and brought down to, thought I brought down to work with, but apparently I left them up in my office. So let me reproduce those for you then. When you're working with an adjective, no, that's fine, I'll just work with this. When you're working with an adjective, you ask two diagnostic questions. The first question that you ask is there an article immediately preceding the adjective? And there are two answers to this question. Is there an article? Yes, there is an article, or no, there is not an article. Those are the two answers to the question. Now, if there is an article with it, then we refer to that adjective as being in the attributive position. If there is no article, we speak about it being in the predicate position. So the first thing that we want to establish is the position of the adjective. The second question that we ask, is there an associated noun? And by associated noun, we're asking, is there a noun that agrees with the adjective in gender, number, and case? Again, two answers. We can have the answer yes or the answer no. And if we have the answer yes, then we are working with the attributive adjective function. If the answer is no, we're working with the substantival adjective function. By the way, is any of this looking familiar to you? Is this ringing bells? Okay, good. That's always encouraging. You let the Greek go too long, and sometimes this stuff recedes into the background and doesn't look familiar. When there is, in the predicate position, you can also have a yes and a no answer. The yes answer gives you a predicate adjective. The no answer gives you an adverbial adjective. Now, I told you I wanted you to be aware of the adverbial adjective, even though we're not going to use that